Welcome to I Am One, where I am Domina, your host. Today is October 1st, 2024. It is not a Sunday, it is actually a Tuesday evening, and today begins the month long celebration called HooDoo Heritage Month. This tradition started back in 2019 by a woman by the name of Mama Ru. And she started it so that we could remember our heritage, so that we could um, be more familiar and reconnect with our ancestors and um, our lineage here in America. So I thought, well, a couple years ago when I found out about it, I think it was 2022, I did for the whole month, I did a tarot reading from the African tarot deck that I had at the time. And since then, I have bought the HooDoo Heritage deck by Tayana Lee McQuiller. I utilize that every now and then, or most of the times on my Sunday morning videos that I do and bring forth to you. Tonight, I just want to talk about honoring our ancestors. I don't really talk about that. You hear me talk about me having conversations with my ancestors, and I have my altar set up, and you hear me talk about, preparing breakfast for them. At least once a week, I'll have dinner with them. But I thought with the beginning of this month and the hoodoo practice, conjure, root work, all those terms, come under this umbrella of hoodoo for us. And uh, for me, it's not so much doing the conjure, although I do spells and I do rituals and I do spiritual work. Hoodoo, some of those spells are part of it, but that's not the whole of my spiritual practice. But yet it's still part of it because the blood of my ancestors run through my veins, and my mother, my grandmother, grandmothers, grandfathers, my aunts and uncles way back in the day. A lot of things that they said when I was growing up, I had no idea what it meant, what it truly meant. And some of the things that we would do in church, I just thought that was church stuff, or I just thought that was a superstition that my mother had, not understanding and realizing that was something that was passed down to her. And even though she didn't technically teach us hoodoo or anything like that, but some of her sayings she passed down to us, and we didn't understand, at least I didn't, what all that meant. So in 2021, December of 2021, I was listening to a video by Queen Poe, and she was talking about, going into the new year. She was talking about, doing your Black Eyed Peas. I mean, I thought it was just a country thing, not realizing it was a heritage thing for us. But she talked about honoring your ancestors. What was the word? What was the technical or specific term that she used? Venerate. That's what she said. This is the time to venerate our ancestors. And what it means is not to worship them, but it is to remember them and acknowledge them, not to forget them because of, the struggles that they went through, the life that they lived during a very difficult time. And we're just a couple of steps away from that. So we can't get high and mighty. We can't get bougie and think, if I was back then, I would have done this, I would have done that. You would have done pretty much the same thing they did, whatever they needed to do to survive. And so during this time, this month, we just remember our ancestors, specific ancestors like your parents, if they've already crossed over, or your grandparents, your great-grandparents, if you knew them. You could also venerate our heroes of our race who came up through that time, came up through that difficult time, gave us great stories of overcoming, of the struggle, and still believing that there was a way just just remembering our heroes, whether it's your biological family member that's a hero, somebody, Nat Turner, or who's the Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey, and any of those people. It's more than a Black History Month. This really goes back to our culture and what how our ancestors practiced their religion in a foreign land, and then had to adapt it in a way so that it could be hidden. They could still practice. They could syncretize it with the religion of the country at the time, and still honor the ancestors before them, still honor the gods that they called on at the time, so forth and so on. And so this is a time where we just remember. We don't know their struggle, but remember them and thank them for enduring the struggle. Thank them for overcoming in the struggle. And many of them may not have attained mass wealth. Many of them may not have attained notoriety. Many of them, they're not in our history books. They're not, our Frederick Douglasses. Many of them didn't rise to that kind of prominence. But still, because they lived through that time, and because their blood runs through your veins and my veins, they are just as important as the Frederick Douglasses and the Fannie Lou Hamers and all those other people. They are just as important as those names that we can pull out, all those people who we can pull out or we're learning about. They are just as important. So a couple things that you can do to honor them. What I do, and really I honor them on a regular basis. I will prepare breakfast for them. I'll prepare a dinner for them. Well, I'll cook the breakfast, but I'm not a cook, so I'll probably get a meal, or if my husband cooked, I'll bring a plate down for them as far as the dinner is concerned. Give them a sweet treat, put some flowers. I always have some water, and if I need to replenish or refresh the water, I'll do that. Something special that I know about them. One of my grandmothers dipped snuff, so I make a point of having some snuff. I will put out a certain kind of bourbon or whiskey for them, and oh my gosh, they really love that. So if there's something, especially if they're, like your grandmother, your grandfather, even if you knew your great-grands, if there's something special about them that you remember, try to put something on there that reminds you of them. My husband's grandfather played trumpet. And when I was growing up, I played trumpet. So I thought that's my connection to his family on his side, that even though, we have met and we've come together and we have our own family, we are still connected. And as far as, musically inclined, I will light a cigar every now and then and blow smoke, tobacco smoke to them to honor them. So there are different things, if we have a sweet tooth. So today, to start it off, I stopped at one of the restaurants that I always go to and got a slice of chocolate cake and put that on the altar to start this month off. And so just different things like that. Whatever makes you smile and remembering them, if it's nothing but flowers, put some fresh flowers up there. If your mother had a favorite perfume and that perfume is still available, grab a bottle of that and just spray it once a week or every now and then, just to let the spirit know that you have not forgotten, that you are keeping them close to you. My husband used to tease me when I started doing this, why are you wasting food, putting it down there on the altar? And to me, it's not so much the food, even though it is, but it's about the memory. It's about the energy. And while they are no longer here physically, where I can physically touch them and hug them and kiss on them and have a talk on the telephone with them, that energy that I put forth to, even if I'm not making the meal itself, but that energy to put the plate together and to bring it down here and to speak a prayer over it on their behalf, that energy is not lost. No, they're not physically eating the food, but they are physically benefiting from the energy. And they're benefiting not just from the energy of the food or the substance, the tobacco, the water, or any of that, but also the energy of my intention that I am giving, I am taking of my time, especially like in the morning when I'm getting ready for work. And if I have a minute, I'll refresh the water and put it down here. I get to work from home one day a week now. And so instead of trying to have breakfast on Sunday with them, I have breakfast on Thursday morning with them because I'm in the house by myself at that point. And, if I want to have a normal volume conversation with them, I can do that, and I don't have to whisper or try to keep my tone down because somebody else might be asleep in the house. I can freely have that time with them. And so, like I said, I venerate them on a regular basis. But during this month, if you have not ever done that, take the time, even if it's just one time this month, that you pull out a picture of them, and you just tell them that you love them, tell them that you miss them, tell them that you're thinking about them. And like I said, maybe some other small gesture that connects you to them, that is, personal to them, that only you would know or you and your family would know. If you're in the area where they're buried, if you want to go to the cemetery and visit them, that is something you can do. I don't have that option. But just some gesture that is personal to you, that makes you smile when you remember them, as you give honor and thanks to them. That's really what it's all about. It's nice that we have a month to, bring that up. And you may think of something that your mother always said to you. Don't step on a crack or something like that. Just think about the things that you heard him or her say growing up and make the connection. It wasn't just a superstition. This was a way of life in these United States for our people. And so they carried that on as much as they could. And yes, we are in 2024 and things are a lot different than when they were then. But that does not mean we have to forget. No, we may not be feeling the same type of pain they felt, but their pain is not in vain, because every day we get up and we choose to do and be and serve and take ourselves to the next level in our consciousness and our religious practice and our faith practice and our spiritual practice, whatever term you want to give it. The more we get up and continue to do that, their labor, their struggle, their strife has not been in vain. And we may not have attained to the heights that the Oprahs and the Tylers and the basketball players or football players. But when we get up every day and we go to our mundane job and we do the best work that we know we can do, and we're making a difference in the department and the area, the sphere of influence that we have, when we stand and we do that, their labor was not in vain. Their suffering was not in vain. Their pain and their struggle and strife was not in vain. And I pulled a card before I came on, and it's appropriate that the card I pulled today was the garden card. And I'm just going to read from the book, because the book, if you don't have this deck, please get it. I'm not professional in tarot. I look at it, I read what it says, and then I see how it applies to my life. But let me just read this about the garden. And we know that in HooDoo, the Bible is really important. That's the part of the practice I have not incorporated when I do any type of HooDoo practice, but there it is. So for this one, she quotes Isaiah 58:11. It says, "The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail." And here's the description. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, most Americans were farmers by trade. It was hard work, but people took great pride in knowing that the produce that fed and cured their families was grown by their own hands. For people with more resources, gardening eventually became a relaxing leisure activity that allowed them to connect with nature or express themselves creatively. Either way, whether for utilitarian or recreational purposes, the rule for a successful harvest doesn't change, which is this: mind your crops. So when we see this card, the garden card, I think of two things. Yes, she's minding her crops so she can get a good harvest, but I also think about we are the harvest of our ancestors. That's pretty deep all by itself. We are the harvest of our ancestors. And what we choose to do in this life will show whether or not there was a good crop that came up from it or a not so good crop. Be that good crop for your ancestors. It's not about having your name in lights on Broadway. It's not about having $1 million or $10 million contract playing for a professional sport. It's not about even winning an Olympic medal. Although those are great things. And if that is something that you strive for, go all the way. But what I'm saying is don't sell yourself short. If you are making a difference in a child's life, you are a good crop of your ancestor. If you are doing good by your neighbors and you're minding your own business, but you're helping when you can, when assistance is needed, you are being a good harvest of your ancestors. When you are raising your own family and you're taking time and spending time and you're sharing stories about your grandparents that your children may not have met, or whatever the case may be, when you are doing your best and you are rising to the occasion, you are a good harvest for your ancestors. So with that, I'm going to let you go. Do something for your ancestors this month. I don't care what it is. You know how you can appreciate them. You know how you can bring forth a good memory, even if it's just one. Bring forth that one good memory. Pay homage to them. Just say thank you. Thank you that your blood runs through my veins. Thank you that I have your strength. Thank you that I have your tenacity. Thank you that I have your heart to give, your heart to love. Thank you that whatever that I have the talent that you have, that I can sing like you did, or I can play an instrument like you did, or my garden, when I get out in the back and I garden, that I'm able to bring forth produce like you did, and even grow some things that I never saw you grow. But that green thumb is still running through my system, running in my veins, in my head, in my hands, and I am able to bring forth just like you did. The cycle has not ended because they are no longer here. It is just beginning. It is striving and thriving. And with that, peace and blessings to you all.